Eric Muathe, Muathe.com, with this weekend's market analysis video for the weekend of October 14th and October 15th, 2017. Let's take a look at the markets here. We have about 4 hours to go before the close. Let's go to the charts. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to have some stock picks. We're going to take a look at some breakout ideas, and also, just in case the market is due for a pullback, we're going to be taking a look at some bearish ideas, and I'll also take a look at some of those Bitcoin stocks that were moving this week. So that's for subscribers, but for now, let's go to the free version of this weekend's market analysis video. Begin with the Nasdaq, and as I have been stating all week, the key here for momentum is whether the Nasdaq can continue holding above 69.1. Right now it is above that, so we have to conclude that on the weekly chart the markets continue to be sideways at worst, bullish at best. Also, as we begin the new week next week, let's watch this here. If the Nasdaq shows uniform activity rejection at the 69.1 threshold, then that is gonna be a visual sign of a market that wants to pull back. Again, the way to summarize this is, as long as the Nasdaq is holding above 69.1, the momentum remains to the upside. If we take a look at the daily, we come to the same conclusion. We've been hovering around the 69.1 level this entire week on the daily for the Nasdaq, which explains this slow but upward grind. Pretty much we've been making fresh intraday highs all week, and that should remain true as long as the Nasdaq is holding above 69.1 on its daily chart. We take a look at the hourly, and we start seeing potential cracks. Short term, I actually do lean to this idea where we are making a higher high intraday, but seems to me that the market continues to confirm this negative divergence look. That being the case, that tells me that more than likely we are setting up for a pullback as far as markets are concerned, and we don't know what type of a pullback. It could be a shallow pullback, or it could be the beginning of a major pullback. We shall see. If you take a look at the 30-minute chart for the Nasdaq, pretty much the same conclusion, and you can see that the Nasdaq's been inching to all-time intraday highs, even closing highs on a daily basis. But take a look at the technicals. We see that we have a well-defined negative divergence line. In other words, market is showing improvement in prices, but the technicals are not following through, or the RSI is not following through, or the strength is not following through from a technical perspective, which means we should start looking for this pullback that is around the corner, in my opinion. Now, of course, we have to be very careful to conclude for the market what it is going to do, because if the market was to clear this line, if we see the market break above that line, that's just going to ignite another momentum to the upside. So just let's be aware the market can do whatever it wants, but as long as we see this negative divergence, as the market's been making an improvement here, chances are we are looking at a market that is due for a pullback. If we take a look at the Dow gives us a good example of why we should watch the 69.1 threshold. And it is very simple here. We've been talking about this for many weeks. Take a look at this period here where the Dow was above 69.1 until here. We had a nice bullish phase. Pullbacks were there, but they were shallow. And again, we go through another bullish phase here with the RSI above 69.1. The market continues attacking all-time highs until we get a move back below the 69.1 threshold. And we are still, as of right now, above the 69.1 threshold, which means in this period where we are trading above 69.1, what the Dow is telling us is the markets are still sideways at worst, bullish at best. And that remains to be true. The Dow daily confirms that look. We continue holding above 69.1. In fact, if you are wondering why the market continues to plug to the upside, it is pretty much because the daily RSI for the Dow continues to be above 69.1. And again, good example here, above 69.1. You stay above at high levels, the market continues trending high in this period. It's a simple technical understanding of how markets respond. Again, above 69.1, we continue trending higher until we move back below this level. And again, here you see another period where the market continued moving to fresh all-time daily highs until it came off the 69.1 threshold. Simple way of understanding how markets respond, and the magic number here is 69.1. So the conclusion is inescapable. We remain in a very strong uptrend until the market comes off the 69.1 threshold. If you're looking for cracks, you'll see this on the hourly chart for the Dow. New highs. RSI continues to struggle a little bit, but this is more evident on the 30-minute chart, which is right now showing the same look as the Nasdaq hourly. We got this negative divergence, and don't forget the most recent intraday high here has come with the RSI failing to hold above 61.8. Let me zoom in here. Let's go take a look from a closer view, from a 1-month view, so we can see this clearly. So we got the same chart, Dow 30-minute, and you see intraday highs, improvement there. But take a look at the technical picture. There seems to be an emerging theme of the strength not following through, and what that tells us is ultimately we are poised for a pullback of some sorts. It could be for a shallow pullback. It could be the beginning of a major high. It all depends on what happens after the pullback. If the pullback finds immediate support, then the market is fine. But if the pullback continues on to break major support levels, then this becomes a major high. Of course, we don't know right now. And what I was saying here is we have an intraday push here to all-time highs, but the RSI right there did not move above 61.8. Based on my research, that tends to be the worst type of negative divergence, suggesting we can expect the market to be pulling back. Now we can spend the same amount of time looking at the S&P 500, which is the same conclusion. RSI above 69.1, S&P 500 daily above 69.1, and then now we start seeing that the hourly is where we start seeing cracks, improvement, potential for negative divergence. We see the same 30-minute look, which is pretty much the same as the Nasdaq and the Dow, and here you can see improvement, declining in strength. In fact, let me zoom in here again so we can see this a little bit clearly, and here we see improvement to all-time highs, intraday highs. But take a look at the technicals. More importantly, again, we made this intraday high, but the RSI failed to move above 61.8, suggesting to me, more than likely, this is setting up for a pullback, even as markets continue trading at pretty much near to all-time highs. And we can also see that on the 5-minute for the S&P 500, there's a line connecting the tops of the RSI right now, which continues to suggest there's a pullback in store because markets have been making an improvement to all-time intraday highs, but the RSI has not followed through. But now let's take a look at this from a long-term perspective, which is the monthly, and the monthly is scary bullish. And we take a look at this. Let's take a look at a 5-year monthly, and we've been talking about this for a long time. Here is a great example between 2013 and 2015. The S&P 500 stayed above 69.1, and throughout this period we got shallow pullbacks, but the market ultimately was very strong. On hindsight, we can see we had to be best positioned by being long, and since we began 2017, same story. Market jumped above 69.1, and you can see for yourself, or we know that the market's been absolutely strong. So what's the conclusion? As long as the S&P 500, the Dow and the Nasdaq continues holding above 69.1, expect markets to be sideways at worst, bullish at best. And there's pretty much no other way of looking at it. Now that concludes the free portion of this video. For those who are not paid subscribers to Muathe.com, wish you a great weekend. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next edition of the weekend analysis video. Otherwise, for subscribers, let's continue on. Take a look at some sectors, take a look at commodities. We'll take a look at bullish stock picks, bearish stock picks, take a look at some of those Bitcoin ideas, and a small look at world markets.